Hello, welcome to another episode of the Marine Corps Association podcast, Scuttlebutt. I'm Nick. I'm here with Vic.
Hello.
I'm here with Will.
Howdy.
And I'm here with special guest, General Chiarotti.
Good morning.
He is the CEO of the Marine Corps Association Foundation, and with the whole Marine Corps Association and Foundation, and is our boss. And I've immediately flubbed it up a little bit, so we're having a good time already. Happy birthday, Marines.
Happy birthday. Hurrah.
246 strong.
246.
Looking good for
Looking
246.
good. Let's not repeat the jokes we've already used.
No, I recycle them. They worked the first time, sort of.
We don't know if they worked. So, you guys got any birthday thoughts?
Let's have 246 more birthdays.
Nice.
Let's keep going strong.
Yeah.
Thanks. Just special wishes to all the Marines and sailors and the families who are forward deployed around the globe, ensuring that we remain safe and carry on our legacy out there. So,
Absolutely.
great.
For all those of us no longer in uniform, find a place, find other Marines, get an Entenmann's cake or something, and just remember our all the pride that we had in uniform, and let's just take that passion and move it into our lives outside of uniform.
Is an Entenmann's cake worth 246 years, or is that...
It's about $2.46, so it's symbolic. And
probably a fruitcake will last that long, but that's good.
So, all right.
Your grandmother's fruitcake, that's the one that,
the one that breaks
that
things.
breaks. That one, yep.
The brick.
Of course, a Marine Corps cake would break things.
Of course.
Well, they're getting a little lighter weight, though, right? Because we're getting rid of the tanks, so we can't have the heavy
Well, if you're going organic,
cakes. Yeah.
if you're going to get organic, then that's,
We have to have an inside force cake.
Yeah.
All right. No, without further ado, I don't want to waste too much of our boss's time. He's got busy stuff to take care of. So I'm going to give it to Vic to take the reins on talking to General Chiarotti.
Absolutely. Well, sir, again, thank you so much for your generosity with your time and sitting down with us today. Just to briefly introduce, I'm not going to do your career any justice here, but just to sort of hit some of the wave tops. So, Lieutenant General Chiarotti, you were commissioned in 85, attended Naval Command and Staff College, Newport, Rhode Island, graduated in 2000. Then Major Chiarotti was assigned to Marine Forces Europe and Southern Region Logistics Plan Officer. Following September 11th, you served as Watch Officer, Crisis Action Team, European Theater. You provided logistics support for OEF and OIF within the European Theater. You were part of the 22nd MEU. Then Lieutenant Colonel Chiarotti deployed with MSS G-22 in support of OIF. You then were selected and successfully completed fellowship at the Smeal School of Business at Penn State. You were command of CLR-3, 3rd Marine Logistics Group, 3 MEF, U.S. Central Command Chief of Staff, Logistics Directorate. 2 MEF is Commanding General, 2nd Marine Logistics Group from 14 to 16. Deputy Commander, United States Forces, Japan. You then transferred to the Pentagon and assumed duties as Deputy Commandant, Installations and Logistics. You hold a bachelor's degree in psychology, master's degree from Naval War College, Newport, and a slew of personal decorations. So, sir, with all that being said, for those who may not know you or are only familiar with you as Lieutenant General Chiarotti, do you mind just taking as short a time or as long a time as you like to just sort of give us some of your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Vic, as you were reading the bio, I was just kind of like, wow, that's a long time there. That a lot of different jobs and kind of highlighted all the careers. But thank you for doing that. So, I was born and raised in Italy. At age 17 and a half, I received a draft notice from the Italian army saying, "Hey, you need to come in." At that time, it was a mandatory draft. 18 years old, you had to serve for 36 months in the Italian military. My mom and dad were both born in Italy. Both of them were young kids growing up during the war. My dad became a U.S. citizen when he was about 23 years old, a couple of years before I did, and came to the States, raised his right hand, and served in the American Air Force under the citizenship service. I think it was called Citizenship to Service or Service to Citizenship program. And lo and behold, and luckily for them, he received his first set of orders back to Italy. So he spent the majority of his career in and around Italy because that's where his family was from. All of them are still there. My parents are still there and everything else. So when I come along, it's I'm an Italian citizen and I have to make a choice between staying in Italy, serving, or coming to the States. And, at that time, as a 17-and-a-half-year-old, the last thing on my mind was to serve in the Italian military and guard some, ancient city or some border at the time. And so I decided that, that wasn't for me, and I'd come to the States. It's funny when you become an American citizen. That was my choice. I had to actually renounce Italian citizenship. Otherwise, I couldn't go back and visit my parents without risk of being in prison for being a draft evader, right? Go figure.
Yeah.
So it's funny, though, when you become an American citizen, whether it's, naturalized or whatever the case is, at least for me, I had this deep sense of patriotic, responsibility that was thrust upon me, and I chose at that time I was going to do something. I didn't know that it was Marine. I had little understanding of what. In fact, I don't even think unless I knew in the movies what the Marine Corps was or what they did or fully had comprehended. But so I was kind of caught in this period of trying to figure out exactly what it was I was going to do to repay my debt to the nation for becoming an American citizen. And I was fortunate. I mean, this is just how things happen. I was at a party actually, and I ran into and I always tell this story. I was sitting around the keg. And not because I drink, but just because I was guarding it just to make sure this kind of future, this is foreshadowing. But I happened to run into a couple of Marines and we were just talking. They were young enlisted Marines that were going to the same school that I was going to, and they just seemed like they had a drive and a bearing, and they carried themselves uniquely different, only as Marines do. And, I thought at that time, wow, wouldn't this be neat? And they were going through the commissioning program, as I said. And so I tried, I talked to them, and probably the next week I went in and, said, hey, this is what I want to do. And my vision, again, my planning is pretty poor. But I said, I'm going to do this for a short time, and then I'll get out. That was 38 years later that, I'm still here doing this. And so at the time when I joined, my dad was he was pretty upset that I would join the Marine Corps. Their vision, much like mine, was shaped by events of Vietnam, especially during the latter part of Vietnam, and by movies and all of that. And so they just didn't understand why they would send their son to the States to do that, But I'll tell you, the minute they came over and they saw, when I graduated from OCS, like every parent, they're extremely proud, and to this day I always joke that there's a monument in the town of Italy where I was born and raised, and it's a monument to General Chiarotti because oh, my son's a Marine general. So it's pretty funny, but they're there. That's me. I have the other part of my life has been my wife and bride. We've been together since college, and long time, and we have 3 wonderful kids. They're adults. I have a 29-year-old daughter. She's out in Utah, and her and her husband are dual income guys. They're doing much better than I ever did, and they're about ready to deliver the first grandchild. And then
nice.
I have a son in the Air Force. He's in Osan, and he'll get orders next summer to Italy, so he'll get to actually come in full circle.
Yeah.
Right? Hopefully they don't arrest him because he's aligned to me. But And then my youngest daughter is a second lieutenant Marines, and she's, in fact, she graduates on Thursday.
Wow.
And she's going to pick up the log reins and head down to CLB 6 here in the next month or so. So pretty excited. Yep.
Fantastic.
And,
Well, that is that's really fascinating. Obviously, it's something that I really appreciate you opening up some of your backgrounds for, because one of the things we've talked about here on this podcast is how stories matter. And one of the reoccurring stories thus far has been the immigrant story. I come from a refugee family. I was the first American born in my family. And yeah, there is this, there's a, I don't want to say it's different, but there is a palatable sense of needing, of feeling this call to give back. So I'm really glad that you touched on that, sir.
Yeah, I think it's, it runs deep for me even to this day. I told it's interesting because, for me it was just again, the day I raised my right hand and became a U.S. citizen. I mean, I remember it clearly. And just this I had kind of a sense of struggle inside because on one hand I had walked away from a draft notice, and I was like, wow, this is it. And on the other hand, I felt this burning desire to serve. And again, it wasn't the Marine Corps. That wasn't the calling. It was to serve back, to give something back on, and I didn't care whether it was a Peace Corps or, it was the groundskeeper for the municipality, I felt like I had to give something back. And before I went on to the next stage of my life. And so you had this, I think, this deep-rooted sense that, the oath and the allegiance that you swear and the citizenship comes at a price. And I believe that to this day. I think, perhaps if we had more of that today, we'd have some clear guidelines within the country. But, yeah.
It's really, and I love that you talked about that dichotomy about, the sense of giving back, but then there's a stigma. My family's from Vietnam, so that was a very real thing. My mom came here in 1975. I was born in 1976. And again, coming full circle, her first, she stepped on the yellow footprints at Camp Pendleton when she came to this country. And my first, I ended up getting stationed at Camp Pendleton, and growing up in San Clemente, many, many different factors about the Marine Corps, both good and bad, helped shape sort of my path towards being a Marine. And so sorry, Vic. It's interesting because when you think about our refugees that we have today on Quantico, absolutely,
the refugees that we have from Afghanistan and all that, years from now their kids will be sitting in perhaps the Marine Corps Association podcast room and be talking about the same thing. I mean,
absolutely.
and it'll be interesting to hear their perspective on it because the way how events unfolded in Afghanistan, whether there's a deep-rooted sense of Afghan nationalism, pride, and then juxtapose that against, the U.S. We came to America. America opens its doors and opens its arms and welcomed us warmly. So it'd be interesting to see how that,
It will.
5, 10, 15 years from now, how all that unfolds,
Well, I had a couple of linguists, one in Iraq, and he was Lebanese Druze. And he had a fantastic life after he fled from all of the civil war in Beirut. And he settled in Detroit. Short story long, he ended up as a executive for GM and was living a very comfortable life. His kids sort of became very American, and he wanted to show them service and giving back. So he enlisted, if you will, as an interpreter, and he was actually one of the SF interpreters. He had human training and all these sorts of things. He was fantastic, but his echoed many of the same sentiments. And then I had another linguist in Afghanistan, an Afghan who fled during his family fled during the Soviet invasion. So he grew up as an American, but same sort of thing. Like, I need to give back. I'm an American. Americans are in Afghanistan. Let me go see what I can do. So I think there is something very palatable about that.
Yeah, the price of citizenship shouldn't be free. That's my opinion. You should have to, make some level of investment in that, again, what I told my kids when they were coming up, it's interesting, and perhaps everybody here at this table who are, dependents of some sort or another, I told my kids, I said, you served 18 years of your life in the Marine Corps. And I did. And it was I told them this. I said, I have no interest in seeing you having to serve in the Marine Corps or anything else like that. But they chose. Mm-hmm. 2 of the 3 chose, and the other one still to this day is so committed to our Corps. But they chose it because I think, number one, they understand the value of serving the military, U.S. military, the need to do that in today's society. I mean, when less than 1% of our citizens choose that as a path, and it doesn't mean that everybody has to join. It's not for everybody. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But at some point, you have to determine that there has to be a price for citizenship, and that bar needs to be set. Otherwise, there's my concern will be that someday that it'll come too cheaply and therefore be traded away for too cheaply, and we don't want that to ever happen. So.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the calling comes in all shapes and sizes, but there is something about that drive, and this sort of leads into what we were talking about, is like the need to not just serve, but to maybe put yourself in a place that is exceptional. Yeah. So what was it about the Marine Corps? I know we talked about the Marines that you met, sir, as a young guy, but what was sort of your impression early on being in Italy, away from the sort of the closeness of the mysticism of the Marine Corps? Did you have much? As far as understanding, like I said, as far as understanding what the Marine Corps was, I had nothing other than my reference truly was, Hollywood and everything that they sensationalized. Mm-hmm. I think that's why my dad had such an allergic reaction to it to begin with. And so again, the movies of my era were, Born on the 4th of July, Deer Hunter, that kind of stuff. Right? So they're very sensational movies. And the Marine Corps and for that fact, all the services are, that is Hollywood. Mm-hmm. It's not today. And so again, at that time it was a different atmosphere and a different time. But the service. What really drew me to the Marine Corps. Number one was those young 3 Marines, 2 of which retired as colonels, and another one served great. And he got out earlier. But it was the character of the individuals. I mean, truly, it was a sense of belonging to a team, a sense of belonging to something greater than. And I had played sports all through growing up in high school, and it was the closest, the closest I can look back in my civilian time and go, yeah, this was, I enjoyed being part of something larger and something, the we instead of I. Mm-hmm. And the Marine Corps gets the I out of you, like when you step on the yellow footprints, right? Or when you go up to OCS. And so that was that was kind of the hook initially. And then from there it was just the Marine Corps has a way of just keeping you in at every gate. I'll call it a gate, but at every point of the transition of the career, there's another challenge, there's another opportunity, there's another set of folks that just you think, man, I just left this unit and it was fantastic, and you go to your next unit and it's like, wow, this is even better than the one I came from. And so that's what the people are, what keep you in. Yes, the Marine Corps is great, all the institutions and its reputation, but it's about the individual Marine, and it's about the people that you serve with, military and civilian, because it's one big family. Yes, sir. Well, using that, I guess to continue with the sports analogy then, so if joining the Marine Corps or serving your country in uniform is a race, some races are sprints. Yeah. Others, such as yourself, sir, are there marathons. Yeah. What was it that kept you, and you alluded to the next unit and excitement of being with the new, what was the next sort of water station that kept you going?
It was the energy bar. Waiting for the next bag of energy jelly beans. Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's a good way. Perhaps I don't think that first of all, I don't think that anybody starts out their career. Anyone at any point starts out their career and go, I'm going to be in a marathon, and I'm going to be around for 37 years. I don't know. I don't think I can think of one Marine that I've been aligned with throughout my career that started out said, I'm going to be the sergeant major. There's some designs. I want to be a sergeant major, or I want to be a general, but it's not, again, the humility of being a Marine leader, you're surprised when you get promoted. You're surprised when you get command of Marines. You're surprised, you should be, it should be because you're humble in that way, I think. And that's what the Marine Corps does for us. And so I think, I started out my career really, my sense that I wanted to achieve, I shouldn't say that, my goal that I wanted to achieve was, I always thought that being a captain of Marines was the best rank to achieve. It just was. I mean, it was
so
just a
fun.
phenomenal rank, right? It's the place where, you're, and I, again, because I think it was what I had, I had the vision of at the time as a second lieutenant. I looked at, company commander, battery commander, whatever the case may be. And I thought, man, here you are, you're in it with the Marines. This is the closest you're going to get. And beyond that, you've just become a staff weenie, right? And then you're behind the computer or, whatever the case may be. Even as a battalion commander, you're never that close. And so, yeah, I was looking to be a captain. I thought that was great. And I had the opportunity to command 2 companies and several platoons coming up to that point. And I look fondly back at that. It was really where you could get to really hit, where the rubber meets the road. That's it right there. That's where you shape young men and women, Marines, to be, the best that they can be, setting that environment for them. And so that propelled me to the next level. And then, opportunities came, family, the whole 9 yards, and you just go. And then if you look back over this period that I served in, it was, you had kind of the end of the Cold War, kind of had an interlude period, and then all of a sudden you've got Desert Storm, then you got 9/11, and once you're on that 9/11 train, you just can't, you're not going to get off the train because you just, again, it's a sense of belonging. I know very few individuals, unless they were required to retire, that they actually got off because, again, they were on that fast train and they wanted to be on it. And
well, how many people were going back to the prior service recruiters get me in,
right?
I'm good.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah,
I remember at Desert Storm, when I was on the drill field at the time and got called up to be in one of the casualty replacement companies, and we were sent up to Pendleton, and we were all standing in line drawing SIF gear and everything else like that, and I looked over and there was this line of like individuals who long hair, cast, it was pretty funny actually, and I was like, what are they doing? And these were all the Marines had gotten out and were prior service, and they wanted to go at it again, and God bless them. I mean, they were just fantastic, and they were doing it again because they saw it as their opportunity to really serve the Marine Corps and serve the nation, and again. They weren't forced back; they were asked to come back.
Yes,
and OIS was very much the same way. You think back at your feelings, how you felt on the day of 9/11, and and it's like, wow, boom, So
yes, sir. So we talked about the Marine Corps being a people's business. That the mystique and the legend of the Marine Corps is one thing, but then you get in the huddle with other Marines. Yeah. What was it about? Who were some of your mentors? Like, who were some of those guys that helped, help pick up your pack when it started feeling a little heavy?
John Lejeune. No. No, I think, it's funny because, it's kind of, you go through and, you say, well, I had, I think at different levels, I grew different mentors, because I was exposed to a different level of leadership. And so, I look back at my first, unit, and I look at the individuals within that, and you're very, I want to say cloistered, but you're very, confined in your view of the Marine Corps. And so I looked within that first unit, our executive officer was just we used to call him Conan for his size and his attitude, but he was kind of the level set of the battalion. And so, you start out like that. You catch somebody, perhaps didn't have everything that I was looking for. I fell back a lot, believe it or not, on my high school coach. And I think so many Marines do that, but, he taught me that, the journey was always worth, the day.
Yes, sir.
And you just kind of look at it one piece at a time, and eventually you're going to get to that end goal. So throughout my career, I'll tell you, I had different mentors. Still to this day, I have different mentors. And I was talking to my daughter about this the other day, actually, and how she builds that. And I said, you don't have to settle on the one mentor. I think what you do, at least what I do, and perhaps I'm sure everybody else does, but my kind of approach on this was that not any one individual has all the things that I look for or know of. And so what I did is I kind of smorgasborded it. There's pieces and parts that I look, even when they're not mentors, look and you go, wow, that quality that individual exhibited, or that, the way that person carries himself, pulling it all together so that it fits you and your needs, not just going, well, and so I'd have individuals that, people that I thought highly of, and when I was a CG or a battalion commander, that I would reach out regularly to give me sound advice on a matter that I knew I could trust them, and then I'd use the same kind of approach to somebody else and kind of balance it out, and then I'd draw my own opinions, my own recommendations, and then move forward. So I don't think you get set on any one, at least for me.
Yeah,
mentor.
that's great.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought of it that way, but I think there is a sense of humility to understand that you're not going to find the 100% solution in a single person. That's not fair to that person. Right. And then it's also not fair to yourself. And, obviously, knowing yourself is a huge aspect of leadership. And so to understand that, that works for them, but it's not going to work for me.
True.
And I think that level of humility is critical to leadership. So yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I hadn't adopted that. Probably should. I wish I had. But I think that's and especially as things are getting away from community. Yeah. Just as a society, we've talked on other podcasts about this sort of the current generation's mistrust of the institution, but to step away from that monolithic view of things and to get into that personal relationship, I think, is critical, and where a lot of young Marines who maybe are struggling or trying to find their identity within the institution can do that by picking those Marines who are exhibiting those attributes and then finding their way by using multiple people as an example instead of just one.
And the other thing I would say is that we're so used to looking up for that mentor, but look across and look down sometimes. And what I mean by down, I don't mean that disparaging. I mean that in the sense of younger.
Yes.
There's so many that so many great quantities. I'll tell you, I was fortunate in my time as a general officer to have some fantastic aides. I mean, just great aides. And each one of them had a uniquely different personality and had character traits, and I was able to, even from them, learn so much more how I interacted with a different population of Marines, right? They were different from me, right? Perhaps your age, right? So I was able to look at them and how they did it, and and normally they tell me, "Sir, you're out of bounds. Sir, you're doing this," or "Sir, you need to," and so that I think we have to always keep in mind that mentorship comes in many different forms and different ages and different, and not just to always look up and say, well, that individual that's up there, it's got to have all the answers. No, it comes in different forms, sizes, shapes, ages, and everything else that, so.
Well, and a shameless plug for Force Design 2030. I mean, this is what both the Commandant and the ACMEC were talking about, diversity of thought. That organizations that think differently do better.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Vic. I think our job is older leaders, and I count myself older now, but as senior leaders, our job is to enable an environment of success, and innovation and free thought and those kinds of things. There's always the time and the place where you lock that down and hey, we just don't have time for that right now. The situation doesn't enable it. But even in those times, I found that, you give the reins of innovation and free thought to your young Marines, and they will take you to places that you're just, wow. And that's what I think the Commandant's done is, he enables the Marine Corps to be this while still maintaining who we are, while still maintaining, ensuring that we're trusted with the legacy and carrying it on and all of that. He's seen the future. He sees it clearly in where the threat is, and he understands how we need to evolve. He doesn't have all the answers, but what he does is he says, "Hey, this is where we need to go very quickly, and we need to do it in a way." And then he lets the Marine Corps and others really help guide, help come up with the ideas. What are the capabilities? How do we evolve the Marine to come to that level of thought and decision making and maturity that's needed for that future, force that's called for in Force Design 2030. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't come from one individual. That comes from the whole Marine Corps and all the thought that goes behind it.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, then, as we're talking then about developing or mentoring or encouraging that sort of innovation and that outside-the-box thinking, to use a cliche saying, what are some of the things that you did as a seasoned officer, as a seasoned leader, to engage your Marines, your peers included, in pursuing professional development and really honing that intellect? Yeah.
So first of all, you every opportunity that was brought up, no one individual is so indispensable that you can't afford to allow them to do something that's good for their career, right? And so,
yes,
and I've seen that so many times where a young Marine or even you're the most important person in the battalion. Let's just call it that. If this guy leaves or this Marine leaves, woman or man leaves, that's it. We're done. And I can't afford to let them go to school. Or I can't afford to let them take this course, or I can't afford this. So the first thing is you have to understand that when opportunity knocks like that for an individual, you're going to get paid back threefold.
Mm-hmm.
I believe
yes,
it. So if you invest in this individual today, what's the return on investment? Without even they don't need that. That's my thought process. Is like, hey, I'm gonna scratch your back today, but tomorrow you're really gonna scratch my back, right? It's kind of the old mafia thing, right? Hey, I'll do a favor for you today. Yeah, kiss the ring. And so anyway, so I think you have to allow for that, and you have to allow that the individual has enough courage to come up and even ask for it. So it's setting the environment of enabling individuals the opportunity to say, you know what, I want to improve myself. I want to do better. And the way I see that happening is that, I want to go to this course, this school, whatever the thing is, this forum or this conference or whatever. Now, again, reality bites, right? And so but for the most part, you can afford on a day-to-day basis to enable that latitude. I think it's also that, you always have to be careful how you criticize, how you give feedback, if everything that comes out of the leader's mouth is negative and why did you try this and it's a waste of time, look, it's common sense, it's humor. After a while, as a human being, you're just going to shut down and go, he doesn't value what I'm worth. And so it's giving value to people. It's helping them understand that they're part of something larger, that their input and their ideas and their efforts are necessary and valued. And so it's about the value of the individual. And I think that's setting the environment,
Yes, sir.
And so, so I think it's, when you put it all together, for me, it's really the homework that you do ahead of when when Vic comes up with everything you've done before to set that environment will pay off when you walk up and give me that shit and say, hey, I want to go and do this.
Yes, sir.
And and so that to me that's encouraging.
Yes, sir.
I always looked at it that way.
I think also too. So there's a sense of kind of like what you're talking about them off. It's not like there will come a day when I will
come back to you.
but at the same time, like I think one of the things that we have a challenge in the Marine Corps is seeing beyond ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think maybe there's that fear that, well, if I lose this person for 3 months, I'm not going to get a return on my investment. But the Marine Corps because that person will do something better in their next tour, the follow-on tour.
So Vic, I'm sorry to cut. That's a great
please.
point because, if you look at this, depending on where you sit, you have to take an enterprise view. Down at a company platoon level, you're like, well, you're going to really hurt the platoon, and I've only got one platoon sergeant, or I've got one, whatever. Yeah, it hurts. But when you step up and you step back and you go, you know what? And the commandant does this, right? He offers opportunities like this, right? He offers the opportunity to go out and improve yourself.
Yes, sir.
We want people to go to industry, for example, and take time out a year. We want people to
go get that advanced degree.
That's right. We want people to stay home when they're having a baby, and we want the paternity. Why? It's an investment to understand that if I give you this time now, and you take care of this and you spend time, that investment's going to pay off in the long run. You'll be a more productive Marine down the road instead of having to carry all this burden with you that, I didn't have time to really settle it because, whatever. And so you've got to make that investment today to really reap the benefits up for tomorrow. And you see it time and time again, just the policies and everything that that we lay out for the Marine Corps.
And I think rationally it makes sense, and intuitively that makes sense. But in going into practice, like, how do you see leaders being able to encourage Marines? Hey, look, you got a lot. Your time is valuable. Yeah. I want you to take some of that time and to hone your craft, or go on sabbatical, or go to school. How do you encourage Marines to, as we do this, I mean, it's a paradigm shift. Yeah. How do we encourage Marines to embrace the shift rather than saying, it's a great thought experiment, but I don't have a lot of time on my plate right now? How do you think we can help?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because when I was CG of 2nd MLG, we had I'm going to take you on a long road trip here.
Please,
so I apologize.
Sir.
But so, we had General Smoke Bottler was a MEF commander, and, we had some, just ingrained readiness issues from a material standpoint, a ground material standpoint. And, and it was, when I first got there, I was like, whoa, we're not doing good. And again, we were all busy rotating in and out of Iraq and doing all this stuff. And so some of that you could understand. But at the end of the day, we were kind of coming on the back end of this, and we were starting to really embrace more of a steady state operation. And so we needed to get back to increasing our ground readiness. And, I took note of, I was like, wow, I've got pretty poor readiness and all this stuff. And so I started really looking at how we managed our time at the company, battalion, and regimental levels. And so I just took the case of a mechanic and trying to figure out, where does a mechanic spend all their time? And when you dissected that, you go, okay, so we get into PT in the morning, and I'm just going to pull it out. We start PT at 5:30 or 6, and by the time we get done, it's probably 08. 08:30, then they have a formation. By the time they're done with the formation, because they got to count for everybody after PT, right? And then they got to get their coveralls on, get out their toolboxes, do all this stuff, and now it's about 10:30. The chow truck's coming on, and so you got to get the 10:15 chow truck, the roach coach that comes by, and they pull out and that takes you about a half an hour, right? Because you got to digest. You don't want to get a stomach ache, and then it's put the boxes away because it's chow time, right? So now you're back at 1300, and maybe in the afternoon you might have some kind of a counseling session or a PME or something like that, and then look at about 15:30, people are starting to wrap things up. When you look at that timeline and you go, and then everybody goes, we're so busy, we've got to work overtime, right? And you just go. So the first kind of when you say it's kind of you've got to learn to manage your time.
Yes, sir.
You really do, because when you stop to think about, and you have to prioritize what's important, and professional development is important. And so, So we've got to teach our young leaders how do you get rid of the kind of the not so necessary activities of the day, and you build a, I used to love unit training management. I mean, it was just that. I mean, to me, that just makes sense. You look at all of the tasks that are required, you kind of spread them out across the day, the week, the month, and the quarter, and now you have an expectation of where you're going. We can't, somehow or another, we've lost that.
Yes, sir.
We've lost the ability to do that, and so we find ourselves in this, hey, we don't have enough time, and so let's give the Marines time back. Let's figure that out for them so that they can understand the value of doing work and training. We have to train. That's the most important thing we do. And then also have time to do that professional development where they're not necessarily having to do it all the time after work, but maybe we can fit it in throughout the day and we can do that. But until we get that timing and that available time to do, it's I think we're going to struggle with this, so yeah, long story, sorry.
No, that's great, sir. And that unit training management piece, not only is it a perishable skill, as you mentioned, sir, but it's not intuitive.
Yep.
I think back as a young man, and we had a guest on who will be coming up in a future episode, but he and I played football together in college, and we both commented on how much easier it was to manage our time in college, where you have an abundance of it during season, because I do have to prioritize, because I've got morning film sessions, I got weightlifting, I've got actual practice itself, and then the games over the weekend, and then I'm gonna, so all these other things. Oh yeah, and I've got a term paper due. Yeah. So when am I going to get that part done? Because if I let my grade slip, I won't be playing. Then time management's not going to be an issue anymore, because I'm not going to be on the team. So I think that is really important, and I do feel like, sir, that it's a hard piece, because what you're saying is you're asking young leaders who are just sort of figuring that out to then impart that on young people who don't really realize that is an issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge, and it's and I've commanded units, and I by no means am I saying that we were so perfect back then that everybody had extra time. No, I mean, we screwed up just like everybody else did, right? And but looking back at it from a position where I sat the last couple of years in senior positions, I realized that was one of the biggest shortfalls that we have, is the ability to really buy back that time, to really prioritize what's important, and then allow the Marines to do it. When you stop and you think about all the we've got to work overtime, we got to do this, we got to do that. In an ideal world, everything's scheduled, everything's it's out there. Why do we have to cram at the last minute? Because we didn't allow enough time to prepare. We didn't have to do those things, and so it's a challenge.
Yes,
again, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Absolutely. I don't want to do that,
that's a great one.
But yeah, it's. I think you have to give the young leaders and the Marines the opportunity to develop. And it can be on company time if we do it right.
Nice, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Well, just shifting gears a little bit on you, sirs. So we've talked about your time in service, but now that you're out of the uniform, what was some of the things that led you to decide to take the helm of the Marine Corps Association?
Yeah, well, thanks, Vic. I think the number one thing was, the connectedness of the Marine Corps. It's just hard to, I'm now 2.5 months out of uniform, and, my greatest fear, was and continues to be, wow, I'm going to walk away from this gun club that I've served my whole life with, And and I keep telling my wife as I drive in every morning, I go, wow, it feels like I'm still going to work. I go to the gates, they want my cat card coming through, and I wake up at 4:30 in the morning thinking thoughts of what I have to do for the day and all this stuff, and the issues are very much not the same scale and complexity, but it's people, it's leadership, it's fiscal, it's how do we bring the value, and so I think my number one kind of criteria was and is the ability to stay connected to the Marine Corps, with an association that is, look, we've got so many great associations out there. If you think about, the individuals who have personal needs, like wounded warrior,
Yes, sir.
or all of those are fantastic and they serve. But the association is uniquely different, right? We give back to the Marine Corps. I mean, we raise donations so that we can give back to the Marine Corps. About this, and it's all about, how do we help professionalize the individual Marine, ultimately the betterment of the Marine Corps by doing that, and we do that through the resources that we're able to gain, and the programs that we deliver through the foundation. That's what we exist for. So to me, that idea of staying connected and being associated with that, I think that was my number one criteria, and so yeah, I mean, that was.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think we're seeing a reoccurring theme here. So your commitment to serving, and so now you gave back to the country. Now you're giving back to the organization that helped you give back to the country.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
One day I'll stop serving.
Not to look too much behind the curtain on this for you, sir, but what was was it something that you had aspired to? Was it or did it just sort of fall into your lap? The
association?
Yes, sir.
No, I mean, I think it was, I like all the other applicants who came up with the job. General Faulkner, opened the door to several general officers and the opportunity, and so you had to apply and you had to get grilled by the board of governors and board of directors, and it was having not gone through an interview in many years, it's kind of a humbling experience,
Sure.
because hey, there's an opportunity, there's a possibility here that I won't get that job, and in the Marine Corps, you get a set of orders, you go, I mean, it's not, hey, can I go to Okinawa? No, you're gonna go, it's
Sure.
like so. Yeah, it was, the opportunity was presented to me, and would you like to apply for this? And fortunately enough, I was selected amongst a very, most of the folks all of them, not most of them, I know, and I think extremely highly of, and I just think it was a great, probably because I'm the only one that wanted to live in Northern Virginia. No one else did. That's why they selected me. But yeah, so.
Well, sir, we're happy.
Yeah.
We're really happy to have you. Now, having been that you were in various commands, I mean, literally across the globe, what impact did the association have for you while you were in uniform?
Yeah, so, I think back in your time and as you were out in the fleet and all this stuff, I remember as a young lieutenant, first of all, picking up Leatherneck and Gazette in the battalion CP.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I mean, it was the coveted magazine that, you got it. First thing you would go to on Leatherneck, you'd go through it and you'd go, I wonder if my picture's in there. Or you just came off an operation or an exercise, and you knew that there was there was a story being written for it, and so you dug through that. So I think that the first thing is the connectedness of the Leatherneck and what it brings to us. And from the Gazette, I'll tell you, my time at Amphibious Warfare School or Command and Staff up at Newport, or even my time at Penn State, you stop and think about what it brings to the Marine Corps, and it's that complex, deliberate thought of ideas, that come together and how to solve them, and,
Yes, sir.
and not from an institutional perspective necessarily, but from an individual or individual's perspective, a group of individuals that may be writing it. And I found that extremely valuable. And when I became DCINL, and we were asked to write for our month of articles and all that. I'll tell you, I mean, it was just so refreshing to see, and I thought I'm going to get an article on this or that, but the Marines and the civilians, I mean, it was like, this is my opportunity to get on there, and I'm gonna present my thoughts, and their articles were just, it was hard to choose the ones that we actually wanted to push forward because they were so thoughtful and so so relevant to what we were doing that it was refreshing to read those kinds of things. Something that it would have been totally, hey, I want you to write on this, or that, but it was so. the value of the association, I thought, from a Leatherneck and Gazette, extremely high. I wasn't around DC much throughout my career, so I didn't benefit as much perhaps from the awards dinners until I was a general and things like that. So I didn't see that. But and that's something that as president and CEO I really want to get my arms around, and that is, what is the value of the association? Because that's what we have to ask ourselves,
yes, sir.
right? It's not a, oh my gosh, she's asking, are we going to be around here next year? No, that's not what I'm asking. It's kind of like you come in and you do a mission, mission analysis. You come out with a restated mission. You come in and you do an assessment of what it is. And one of the couple areas that really resonated with me so far as I think through all of this is, number one, what is the value of the association? And if you look at that in terms of the second part, growth, so if value's high, then growth should be high, right? But we're in a point in our association's history where, associations at large and nonprofits are losing membership, and it's not because, wow, you don't bring value. You have to really dig into that and kind of do the analytics behind it. It's because in today's youth. Today's populations, there's not a lot of value in us being a member of an association when you can get everything for free online, right? Well, you want the products that we offer. Well, just go online, go to MCA.org, and you're going to be able. Nick's on there, and he's building all of these podcasts and all the resources that commanders need and all that stuff. So beyond that and beyond the Gazette and Leatherneck, what else do we do? And so we deliver programs to the Marine Corps, and we deliver good programs, but it goes back to time management. Commanders can't use up all the stuff that we give them, so we've got to help them help themselves. And so again, value, and growth. And so those are two areas that I'm focused on, and two areas that I think require a lot of scrutiny on our staff and the board members and governance.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I hate to use I'm like full of trite, cliched sayings,
Yeah.
but creating that safe space.
Yes.
I think that the association provides an avenue that's more or less, it's outside of the Marine Corps. We don't have to necessarily walk the party line on every little thing, and so I think in a way we facilitate that diversity of thought, and to really let people sort of cut their teeth on engaging in a sincere way.
Yeah.
Not just something that's going to facilitate
you're
promotion.
spot on, Vic. But I'll tell you this. So I think the way to do that, and so to be relevant in today, this, all three of you know this better than I do, because I don't react as quickly on social media as everybody else does. But you have to have the flexibility and dexterity, I guess, to be able to do that, right? And so an issue comes up today, and it's a 5-minute issue, right? It doesn't linger forever, right? I mean, there's very few topics, if you think about it, maybe, election fraud, I don't know, but things, I think it'll last forever, right? But there's things out there that are relevant to the Marine Corps that you want to talk about today, right now. And this goes back to value, Vic. Are the magazines the right place to do that? Well, no, because we're very deliberate in our approach, and it's not that we're being, we're editing all that stuff out. It's just that they don't have the quick turn that we need. And so we have to offer our members and our Marines, because membership's a bad thing, but a safe space where you can come in, the blogs, the this, the that, where people can come in without fear of retribution. They can come in and have a professional discussion. I'm not talking about, going down to the lowest denominator here. I'm talking about having a professional discussion and being able to, hey, I don't agree with this. And, I highlight the unfortunate, what happened with Afghanistan and everything else like that. And, we should have, and I should have realized the space there, and we should have quickly jumped on that one. Now, we did some work on the side, and we did, there was some things, but the ability to open that up and say, hey, this is a place where you can really come in and you can have this professional conversation about, without people coming in and, coming on top of you or, all this other stuff. Not that we're going to take a side. That's not our job and that's not it. But we have to be able to realize where that conversation is happening today. And we have to be able to take care of it, and it's not, for us, look, maybe it is war on the rocks, or maybe it is this, or whatever it is. I don't know, but we've got to be able to gather that up and be as flexible and dexterous as, I guess it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, sir, I so appreciate you taking the time.
This is
I just
great.
got one final question for you, and then if either Nick or Will have anything.
They show like they're just sitting back like that. I think they're taking a nap or something.
If I didn't have it scripted, I would be
Yeah.
in complete receive mode right now. So I don't blame them at all.
No,
This
he
has been
typed this all up for a
fantastic.
reason. He
This is
Okay, go ahead.
fantastic. But sorry, I gotta just ask you, what was your best day in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, you can ask that question. There's, and I don't mean to sound like, apple pie and all that stuff, but there's so many great days. I want to kind of probably, because I know, if I say, well, it was when you got married or something like that, I was in the Marine Corps. No, that's not it. But from a Marine's perspective, I guess. I vividly remember the times that we completed, and this is kind of a general theme rather than a day, but we completed operations and we came out, as a commander at multiple levels and having the opportunity to bring Marines into combat or even humanitarian crisis situations or whatever it was, to be able to say with confidence that the Marines did a fantastic job, that we were able to walk away from this, and that that doesn't mean we didn't have any scars, but to be able to walk away from this as a unit or as a whatever it was, I think those are probably the things that will stay with me forever. And I vividly remember coming out of Iraq the second time and standing on the wings of the Carter Hall, and as we'd come out of Anbar Province, where it hit, and we were retrograding down south, and it was just a monstrous retrograde because the MEU, who had been land based, had to come up, and so we'd come off ships. They put us up there, and we had to drive up and drive back, and so that was the distances involved in there, but. And so just, and then we operated in there, great operation, and came back, and on the way back, and, we had everything back down at Kuwait Naval Base. And I just remember thinking, as the Denver was shoving off and everything was tucked in the ship and we were getting ready to come back to Lejeune and just thinking, wow, what a fantastic day, just looking back and, we were like every other unit had been in there. We were scraped up, beat up, but everybody was back on board, exception of a few. But those kind of days, and I can think about Haiti. I can think about other places that we've been in Africa, whatever, and just those kind of days will stick for me for my life. Just that was a great day in the Marine Corps. It all comes to this. And being the last guy, I pride myself always being the last guy out. No matter what. Even almost at a personal death risk, but being the last guy off. Because there's bandits coming across the wire. But I think that when I look at it, the best day of the Marine Corps was being able to walk away from some very challenging situations, knowing that the Marines had performed and had done a phenomenal job, and that we could account for every single one of them.
That's awesome.
So,
Awesome, sir. Well, sir, again, thank you so much. This was such a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to sit with us for a little while. And
Bill, Nick, anybody?
Yeah, no, I'm really happy you're here. This was really, really fun to just be sitting in the room.
Yeah.
As I was thinking of questions, they were getting answered. So I hope that's what's happening for the listeners as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got this great clip. I'm going to bring it in at the end. Like, we're talking about Force Design 2030. What about MCA Design 2025?
Boom.
Boom. Done. So
Yeah, no, that's good.
It happened like 3 or 4 times as we were going through there. I'm like, oh, I'm going to jump in. I'm glad I didn't.
Hey, I want to just throw it back on you guys because I mean, these podcasts and I spent some time hunting and pecking on the web. And if you go out there, you'll first of all, you see all the resources that are available.
Mm-hmm.
I keep people, well, what do you guys do? And I keep talking about, well, we give commanders the opportunity to really professionalize their course through education, through battlefield studies. And if you look at our battlefield studies and you look at all the resources that have been that are available to Marines, to commanders, or whatever the case is, to be able just to go to one place and hit one spot and be able to download or read or all the books, all the documents, all the maps, and that's a lot of time. And if you think about it, it's just it's an invaluable resource. You look at the leadership series of podcasts that we have out there, and I'd never listened to them before, and I spent the last month listening to them. I said, well, I better listen to everything here. So I did. And I'll tell you, I was like, wow, fascinated. I think where we need to go there, I'll tell you this, is that it's always great having generals and leaders who've made a significant contribution to the Marine Corps. We want to hear their voice, But, think about the young Lance Corporal who may be facing the next conflict, who may be facing the next deployment, the next, challenge, whatever, or even just a day in the life in garrison. To be able to pull from our veterans, just hey, I served in Vietnam from 66 to 67, and I was a rifleman and, First Battalion, First Marine, or whatever the case is, and tell me how did you feel about going into when you were getting off the plane and you were walking in and you were going into combat. I mean, just those personal experiences at a level that we can, the majority of our Marine Corps is, and that's a young enlisted level, and be able to share those experiences and those kind of those emotions, I guess, if you will, of being able to step off that line of departure, and hopefully our Marines today will be able to relate to that they're not in it. Number one, they're not in it by themselves. They may be able to pick up some tricks of the trade, and just kind of assimilate to those individuals. So maybe that's somewhere as you start building more, put more work on you, Nick. But,
Well, I just finished my last big project, so we can get started on the
got
next
something
one.
else. That's right.
No, it's good to hear, especially including the diversity of thought and trying to get more voices out there, especially from the younger generations.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to especially see a lot of younger people write and speak with us. I mean, I love reading first and second lieutenant articles because I can remember where I was, especially graduating college and being that young and that mindset that they have, and it's great to see.
Yeah, we need more of that. We need less of me. So anyway.
Not on this show, sir. We're definitely going to have you back on.
All right.
Well,
All right.
all right.
Thank you again, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, and thanks to all our listeners out there too.
All right, I guess we'll just take a moment now to wrap up then. This has been the Marine Corps Association podcast, Scuttlebutt. I'm Nick. I'm here with Vic, William, and CEO of the Marine Corps Association, Lieutenant General Chiarotti. It might sound crazy to say this with the boss in the room, but opinions expressed on the show are just opinions and do not express the official views of the Marine Corps Association. We get significant contributions as well from Nancy Lichman, editor at Leatherneck. So thanks for your time, and we'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you.